So team 3, Daniela, she submitted a link, and I'll put it in the chat, and you can, tag along with me right now. Before, I take a look at this thing and comment on it, what I'll do is I'll quickly go through the project page, team project, and look at the work plan on, kind of figuring out on what I want to give you feedback today, right? Set up public repository, set up the URL, and have initial README with preliminary research questions. And it concerns the research motivation and the repository structure and the documentation, right? So what we're looking at is a business problem relating to the data, naturally. So inside the Airbnb, choice for the research method is motivated. Well, obviously this is work in progress, so maybe, it's not yet there. And, maybe you've thought about a way in which you want to deploy your results. So I'm going to, look at this. Just a second. I'm going to move this also to a different browser so I can kind of see these things. And what I'll do right now is, comment upon it, right? So let's go to this website, the project page. So something that my, suggestions would be for you to change the project title into a preliminary research question, right? This is your first thing on your GitHub profile. It's public, so you want to, you want it to make, complete. Another thing that you could do, you could link to the members, right? So actually, I'll fork your thing right now. I'll fork it to my Hannes letter so I can actually make changes, and then I'll give you a pull request, right? So team members, can you post your profile names to like your GitHub handles to the chat? Because then I'll show you how, to pimp this up. And I'll look at the research question. Which cities in Europe have the best quality price ratio in terms of Airbnb listings? Cool. Okay, let me read. Valuable research, those who have fit. Yeah, all right. That's interesting. So where are the GitHub handles? Leslie, Mila, Anouk, Mandana, put your GitHub handles in the chat right now. And I'll start fiddling around with this. So now I took a copy and I'll, clone this copy, git clone my own copy. I'm cloning it, and I'll open R because ultimately this project is going to be in R. Most are working and couldn't attend. All right, that's fine. But do you know their usernames? So let me show you how to do this. I'll open R. Where's R? R is here. Just a sec. Let me close all the stuff that I've done and open. Yeah, that's exactly that. Now open dPrep. This is the project. All you have is the README, right? Let me give it a better title. Assessing Airbnb's value for money. Okay, so let us put the motivation up here, and let's bold this. You'll do this with 2 underscores. Maybe you make it a little less personal. Pretend you're not students, but employees of like a big research firm, right? Maybe you want to cut down these, rewrite this text a little bit. And then in the end, we can have a little section on contributors. Okay, and we can start creating links by wrapping in square brackets and, for example, citing this course. And Mandana is here, and let's create a handle to her page, right? It's the square brackets and regular brackets. I think that's it. I also like working with Git here, but Git somewhat doesn't show up. So I'll go to this thing, dPrep project. And I do git status. I've changed the README. What is it that I have changed? I do the diff. These are the changes. Great. Git status. So git at. instead of writing README, I could also just do git add point. So it adds everything. Git status, it's green. Fix README suggestions to place links. Git push. Oh, there we go. So the README immediately is going to look a little, flashier. Something else that you could do is you could include images. So inside Airbnb has probably an image to it. Copy link. Is that the link? Is that the link to the image? No, it's not. Let me go to a different browser where it's easier to copy the image URL. That's the last thing I want to show for this repository. Right click. Well, this was Safari already. Do we have it here? Oh, maybe I can't. Maybe I can't capture the Airbnb logo. Airbnb logo. This is the last thing I want to change. So let me grab one that has a stable link. Let's go to images to see the URL. Yeah, this is Wikipedia, so this seems pretty stable. So copy image address. The last thing I want to do, go back to this repository and maybe put in data, a data section. And this is how you include images. You start with an exclamation mark. In the square brackets, you give an explanation, and then you just add the link in a, in regular brackets. So let's preview those changes. Well, it's a little big, but ultimately we can downsize this image. Markdown, downsized image. Maybe we find how, but I'm too lazy to look it up right now. So let's just assume this is it. Add image, commit changes. And the last thing that I'm doing is to issue a pull request by clicking on, contribute, open pull requests, and submitting my changes. Create pull request, title, reviewing your work. And then I say add links to repositories, strengthen motivation, add images to make README more attractive. So, and it's up to you whether you want to integrate this or not. Let's continue to the next one, because this was just one of those examples. So let's look at team project 4, and I'll put it to the chat right now. Why do you need to change the text in RStudio, but images just in GitHub? Well, it doesn't matter. GitHub has this nice preview thing that you can do, and you can like after clicking on, I'll show you real quick, you can switch back between code. Typically I'll write only code in GitHub when I know exactly it will work, because normally I need R for changing actually code and seeing whether it works or not. But for text changes, you can very well also use GitHub. That was your question about Sabine's question. Thanks, by the way, Sabine, for your activity. That's really helpful that you make use of the chat a lot. Thanks a bunch, Randus, also for this Hugo thing. All right, let's take a look at this. So I think the most obvious thing which I see, there's so many beautiful things that I see. Amazing. So first of all, it looks more complete, right? Because next to let me go back to dPrep, to my course project, grading details. You also need to work on your repository structure and documentation. Well, documentation is one thing, but the structure means the directory names in your project, right? For example, the project has a concise and accurate name. Let's take a look at this. Well, actually, you have a very good name for your project here, but I would definitely suggest you to change the name of your repository, because no one will be able to do this, to see what this means. So why don't you relabel it as pricing strategy Airbnb? That would change the URL, but the best thing is all old URLs will redirect to your new URL. Even using this dPrep 21 git thing, which is in the chat, which I put in the chat to clone it, it will always clone the correct one, right? So please change the URL. Just go to settings, like, yeah, but just I'll show you real quick. So let me log in, go to one of my repositories, GFK Singapore. By the way, that doesn't mean this is a paper I've worked on, but this is elasticities across countries. This is a way better name. So boom, I just renamed one of my works, which I have worked on for more than 6 years. It just got a new name, but you know, it won't break stuff. Okay, so you can do the same. So what are the other things? Yeah, you've committed stuff. Actually, let me fork it too, because I want to make some changes. There we go. Copy paste, go to terminal. You know, Git, the desktop client is real cool, but actually, as you're becoming more experienced, you become much faster navigating your stuff on the terminal, right? So let me see what we got here. And I'll open your project in R, because the nice thing that you've done is you've created this little, you know, project thing. So let me go to dPrep, and there's a project which I can open. Confirm open this project, yes. So let me see. So immediately I get immersed into your project. So something that I want to show here is that you have stuff on your GitHub profile which doesn't strictly need to be committed. A .r history is essentially a history of all the commands that you have ever typed into R. But you know, me collaborating with you on a project, I don't need access to your history. Suppose even I start issuing commands, then I'll mess up with this R history. And when I add changes, then it's gonna, you know, mess this up, because you worked in R history and I worked in R history. So typically files that start with a dot, these are temporary files that you should not commit. And one way in which we can exclude these files is, well, first of all, let me open it and just pretend we edited some changes, right? I go to terminal, do git status. Now you see that the R history has changed. What I can do instead is I can open the .gitignore file in your repository. So you've created it actually. And exclude the .r history from tracking. Well, you've did that. You already specified this. I'll explain it to you differently. Suppose there's a file. I call this really large data. And large data you should not commit, but I still, you know, put it in the data folder. Large data.csv. That's just, yes. The git status. Now there's this large data set, but data should not be on Git. What you can do is you can create a .gitignore file in your repository and say, well, all those files ending with CSV shouldn't even be tracked. But on git status again, you show that this large data thing doesn't show up anymore, right? So in that way, you can exclude files from tracking. What to do with this .r history that you accidentally committed, but nobody actually needs this file, right? We shouldn't have it on our repository. We can do git rm for remove .r history. It says there's changes, do you want to really change it? And I think with -f, we can fully remove this. So you see the file has just disappeared. And this is a change I'm proposing as a pull request, right? Git status, see it's been deleted. And I'm adding my changes to the gitignore so that no data sets are going to be added. So git add .gitignore. And the change is exclude CSV files and remove our history file. Yes. Question? And we git push. Apparently there was no question, which is fine, right? So this is my fork, I think. Let me continue. yeah, for example, this .rproj user, that's also just like internally stuff. So you could also exclude this. So I'll do this. Git rm for git remove rproj.user -r and -force. So this is like all stuff that we actually shouldn't exclude internal files from tracking. Status, git push, right? So we've done this too. So we're cleaning this up a little bit. And as we're doing this, the repository looks a little cleaner. Okay, and then we get some code. And you started actually even, well, no, there's actually nothing in there. Data cleaning, no, nothing is in there. Figures, I think nothing in there, good. But the data, well, you haven't worked on that too, but that's totally fine. So what I like here is, yeah, you've just initialized it as a template. This is actually a great template to start a new project. So good. Quick feedback on your research idea. Work with bullet points in your motivation a little bit, maybe even more, because there's a lot to read. And, you know, this is something the public sees. So, you know, make it a little more, you know, attractive maybe to go through. Yeah, this is very wordy. Make it a little like, I don't know, a little more sections, more bullets, more boldify, or use italics. Yeah. Relationship between price and negative reviews. Yeah, good. Yeah. Maybe make it a little more, you know, appealing to other people that are not into marketing analytics. You know, this is your visitekaartje online for like big data projects. So make it a little sexy to go through. Yeah, and I think you can, yeah, start working. I think you used an example README as a way to do this. This is something else I want to show. For example, this is an example README where already formatted stuff. You can just like copy paste it and have like something on it. So you started from this, so this makes your repository already look good. Good. I don't have so much more feedback for you at this stage, right? Let me go to the next project, which is by team number 5. All right. You know, same thing here. You're less far than the other project, which is fine. You have a README, but no structure yet. It's in terms of files and stuff that you plan to do. You know, reformat this README, give it a better label. Let me go through your motivation with the introduction of the 30-day rule. Insert a link and link to a blog post which inserts the 30-day rule. You know, make it easy for people to connect to your repository and your work. Right now, we don't work on our own, we work in public, right? So we want to make it easy for people to grasp and to relate and to find you. Even if you're adding a link, you know, your site gets indexed high at Google and, you know, people will come to your page. Rand said less time to achieve the break-even point. What does it mean, break-even point? And what is the 30-day rule? Maybe you can like quickly motivate it or, you know, link to it. But does the announcement indeed have significant effect? Significant on what? On the number of brood you sold in Amsterdam? I don't know, right? So be a little clearer on what it should have an effect. You have the X in your model, right? The 30-day rule, but what does it affect? Right, prices, right? Okay, good. Methods and results. Maybe you add a little data section here, you know, and link to Airbnb, and maybe say about, yeah, you're focusing on Amsterdam. Maybe you do not only want to focus on Amsterdam, but want to compare it to a city which is comparable to Amsterdam, but doesn't have this 30-day rule of introduction, right? So you can make a comparative analysis. Yeah, that is gonna, you know, come alive as it is. This is something really cool. The running instructions, I want to show this. This time I'm adding stuff on GitHub itself. And I quickly want to show you how you can format code so that people very easily can like copy paste your stuff. So I'm forking again. Oh, by the way, I haven't issued my pull request from this other one. So contribute. Clean up files that shouldn't be versions. Good. Got that. See actually that these pull requests are also like a great way, and forking is a great way for me to give you feedback. So I'll do that like this. We've done this. Let's go back here. I wanted to show you how to format code. So I'll clone this too. I'll fork this too. I don't clone it this time because I'm just making changes to like the README. So I click on edit and the running instructions. I would say install RStudio and R, and maybe you link to Delbruck Science App. So people like who are really from somewhere else just like get, and I know this link by heart because I created that page. So, but you know, it's good. Install additional packages. If you start your line with 3 accents like this, I don't know how to properly call them, and then you can write install packages event study. That's it, and close it again. Yeah, it's just the rest is going to be in your code, right? But right now, if you go in preview, people who are lazy immediately say, "Oh, I got a copy. Okay, I got this. Oh, install and go to R and just do like copy paste. That's it." Oh, actually, you need to wrap it in quotation marks, but maybe this was my mistake. So let's go back. Zip. I can edit the file and install packages, event studies. How does it render on the side? Well, it looks like this. I can actually click on the copy thing very easily for like lazy copy pasters like I am. And now I can install this package and be able to run your stuff, right? Amazing. I'd love to learn more about this package. I'm happy with my changes. You know, format code as copy paste code. Is there a question? I hear some noises from somewhere. I would also change this name here up there, by the way. Let me quickly do that. Yeah. How does Amsterdam's 30-day rule impact Airbnb prices? Commit, that's it. And I think I'm done. I'll quickly, you know, submit my changes to you guys so you can integrate those. So what is it again that I did? Create pull requests. Today's feedback, which is format highlighting code and change project title. But obviously for you guys, the same stuff applies like I've shown for many of you know, the teams, right? Have a more elaborate README, start actually having code there. Team project 6 doesn't look like, you know, going in a you know, I mean, you just didn't have time to work on it, which is fine. Maybe for you guys, start populating your repository. It's not only the code that you put in there, but it's also, you know, curating your about page and, you know, making sure everything is in place. You know, when I go back to Nikki's project, well, Nikki also hadn't, you know, done this, but, you know, start curating a little bit this profile. Ralph, when should you use the GitHub editor and when do you use RStudio via Git? Because unless you're doing something with actual code, working GitHub seems much easier. Yeah, it does. See, markdowns, that's like, it's just like a Word document. When you want to boldify, use 2 underscores. If you want to write an italic, you use 1 underscore. That's it. Like, so I know for a fact that I can't make a mistake when I write markdown code. I even can click on preview to see how it renders, right? But when you go into R and you do actual coding work, not fixing typos, but like writing an algorithm that cleans data, you must do this in R and test whether it works, right? You can't do this on GitHub. So GitHub for markdown documents and for changing typos in code, adding comments in code. But for anything where you need to verify something runs, you need to use R. Make sense? Good. So there's not so much here, I think. Axel, and a submission. There we go. Investigating. I love your title. You do have a title. You have some data download function here. And you're already downloading data for Hong Kong. I'm curious. I'm like getting excited. I want to fork your project and try whether it runs on my computer. because that is something that you guys should all do over and over again, right? Making sure your project runs on other computers. So I do git clone, I'm checking out your checking out my fork, and I do cd group 9, please get a better title. Plus get a short title because people are lazy to type. All right, so maybe you want to create an R project too, just because other, may look nice, and maybe you get some extra features that I'm not aware of yet. So you got some data script. So let me go here, data download. Some good practices to use file names without spaces, because across operating systems, sometimes, using files with spaces messes up stuff. So what I'll do right now is click on file and rename, and I'm call it data download. I would never write that Moray, that you've written that file, because that's in the version history of that file. So don't do documentation that's not strictly necessary, such as like giving a file name. Well, the file name is the name of the file. So, this is typically documentation that's not needed. So here you've done something extremely nice. So you have this file and you already put it on Google Drive. I really love this. So you've taken it off from inside Airbnb, because maybe inside Airbnb stops to exist tomorrow, but your research still needs to work, right? So what you probably did is you downloaded this data, put it on your Google Drive, and download this. So what I'm doing is I'm prototyping this right now. I go to set my user directory, and I just like run this whole file. Control Command A and Command Run. And is it okay to cache OAuth credentials in this folder? Yes. I need to log in. Tidyverse API continue. Authentication complete. And probably I don't have permissions to download your file because it's only shared internally with co-authors, team members, which is perfectly fine. But make sure that if you are using this structure to store your files, that you add me, my Tilburg University address, as a shared viewer or something, because otherwise I won't be able to run your stuff. Why is this a cool way to set up stuff? Well, I told you, it's more sustainable because maybe inside Airbnb shuts down tomorrow. Apparently the link is not public, so you may want to do something. I don't know. Check it out, verify. But it's also a structure in which you can soon work with, your thesis advisors, because, a thesis advisor may give you confidential data. You'll just put it on Drive, get a link, and that way you can download this data into your project. Well, why don't we just have a disk or USB flash drive with data? Well, that's the old way of working, right? Having everything just on one computer. But as soon as we want to onboard new collaborators, they should be able to get the data. And, we shouldn't ship USB flash drives, or I don't know, sending an email with 300 megabytes files or 300 gigabytes of files. That's really the old way of working. The way we do it, we store it on a server, we give them access to that server, and then the data gets programmatically downloaded. All right. So let me try again. Is it really, insufficient permissions, request that, insufficient authentication steps? Yeah, I don't know. It seems like I can't get it, but try to verify it. But this is a very good way forward, and you'll have to do this eventually for your projects. So this was group 9. Anything? Yeah, also very, very text heavy. Let me look at your research question. Yeah. Try to be a little more appealing to the greater public. This reads like an academic paper, which is fine, right? But okay, how do every micro change supply and demand? I give examples, make it a little more publicly driven. You can still write a report or something with typical research questions, but the pandemic had, the price of okay, cool. I think, that's cool. Nothing more to add. Let me try to compare it with stuff that I wanted to have here. Research motivation. Well, the deployment maybe is something. Do you want to write a report? Do you want to have an app? Do you want to, I don't know what the final outcome of this is. So maybe you can think about deployment of your research results, right? The typical examples are you're writing an academic paper, you're writing an app, you're making an infographic maybe, you don't have to be top-notch academic in a way. You want an academic paper because there are multiple ways to to do stuff. You can even disclose your research results as an API. Own API in R, because there's a package in R on how to create your own API. You know, if you're taking online data collection and management, think like that's a cool thing, like APIs. Well, maybe you can wrangle inside Airbnb's data in a way that you give a city and the API returns the value for money ratio for a city. You've just built your own service. You could just launch it, you know, and see whether somebody else uses it. So think about deployment here for this project. Do I need to, did I make any changes? Let me see, I forgot whether I make changes. So let's just do git diff. Yeah, I cleaned up. Okay, relabel and clean up. Git add dot, git status, renaming file without underscores, plus cleaning up code from comments that were unnecessary. Git push, and also you guys get my contribution today. So there you go. Anything else here on which I want to comment on? No submissions. So we got this group, but Federico also seems to be at the very beginning, so there's nothing for me to comment on. Team 13, I'll love your title. Because it's, by the way, too much spaces here, so remove that space. Your title is attractive. It's just like, you know, 5 words, it's easy to grasp, and then comes like, you know, something else. That's why research questions or like paper titles are sometimes like this. Superhost is also like very attractive because like super is a nice word, and like, yeah, good. Then don't like scare off people with research question. Maybe you want to change this like a little different, like the problem we're trying to solve. Make it a little objective. Cool, good. Yeah, maybe you explain what superhosts and ordinary hosts are to those people like me who haven't been traveling in like 2 years. I like the way this is going. Maybe you also want to comment on why it is important for consumers. And the question yeah, sounds cool. Maybe you want to learn more about yeah, certain packages that you can use here, certain models, but so that certainly goes in a good direction to develop. We're almost done with this class. Just commenting on the last few things. Yeah, guys, Eurovision, World Cup. Yeah, just refine your research question a little bit, but I think, you know, there's nothing so much to criticize from these research questions. Change 15 should change, you know, the repository title. By the way, if I go through some of those projects too quick right now and you need extra feedback, just be in touch, and I'm happy to comment about that. I'm almost done. I'm just looking at my notes to see what else I want to do. Yeah, and that's the final comment. So I need you know, 4 more minutes. Sorry for you guys. On tilburgsciencehub.com, we have a tutorial on using Scrum for researchers. I'm pasting this in the chat right now. I seriously recommend you to use the Scrum methodology to collaborate on research projects, all right? So for example, you can start having issues on your project board. And I just do this for Federico. Change project URL title into something more catchy. Because it's an open source project, I'll submit new issue. Do I see anything else? Start selecting data sources. See, you as a collaborator can create issues, and then you guys can start. Yeah, right now I can't have this project board. I'll go through one of my repositories to show you the project board. You can start creating a project where you can create 4 columns. Backlog, which is anything that you could potentially work on. Let me just like, this is an old thing and I haven't maintained it in a while. This is the do, the process, and done. So backlog, to do, in progress, and done. And what you'll do is when you meet up, you say, well, what are we going to do in the next week? And you're moving the issues that you want to work on here to this thing. Well, maybe you want to add a new issue. Well, just a note, just a note. This is what you're going to work on. You can assign people to it. You can attach the issues that you're working on. And when you are working on stuff, you can put it to in progress. And when you're done, you put it in done. Now you're meeting again in your team and you don't have to have an agenda, because the only agenda that you have is look at your board and start, oh, I did this. Oh, great job. Well done. Yeah, I looked at the changes. Good. And you discuss what has been completed. You discuss why things haven't been completed. Maybe there are issues to solve. And then you decide what other stuff to put in your to-do list, and then have another round of working on this as a team. Split your project in small tasks that you can build on independently. And the Scrum methodology, like here, is like a very honest article on how I learned this. Well, I didn't write it. It's a colleague of mine who wrote it. So check it out. It's a very important tool. And if you want to know more about this, there's an amazing book in Dutch on project management by a guy who worked at Blendel, who still works at Blendel. I love this book. Maybe it's in the library. Maybe you can find it somewhere. This explains this method real good, and I always give it to my new PhD students because I really like this thing, like how working, right? So use it as a way to like upgrade the way in which you collaborate. What's there to come in this course? That's the last minute I'm taking from you today. Next week is gonna be on exploring and auditing stuff with our Markdown. There's a tutorial in which you can work, and some readings that you will have to do. And we'll have a similar live stream with going through the tutorial and working in an activity. All right. I'm sticking around for questions. I'm done for today with my content. I hope you find this an engaging session. Thank you so much for your attention today.